Welcome to Gospel Flicks, your ultimate destination for spiritual growth and inspiration. Today's message is titled, 2025, A Life Above the Sun. As we step into this new year, 2025, let us embrace a life above the sun, a life filled with meaning, purpose, and the abundant blessings promised by God. This isn't just a hopeful sentiment, it's a divine invitation. What really is life under the sun? When we are not experiencing this abundant life, it often feels as if life is nothing but toil, a constant struggle, a hamster wheel of activity that leads nowhere. In your heart, life can seem meaningless and empty. You feel like someone grasping for the wind, Ecclesiastes 2:11. This is a powerful image. Imagine trying to catch the wind. You can feel it, you can see its effects, but you can never truly hold it. It's a pursuit that is ultimately futile. This feeling of emptiness, this sense of chasing after something intangible, is what the Bible describes as life under the sun. The full verse of Ecclesiastes 2:11 says, "Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled, and indeed all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun." The writer of Ecclesiastes, often attributed to King Solomon, had everything the world could offer: wealth, wisdom, power, pleasure. Yet he concluded that without God, it was all meaningless. He understood that earthly pursuits, while not inherently wrong, cannot ultimately satisfy the deep longing within the human heart. Someone who lives life under the sun may or may not acknowledge God, but God is not the center of their life. Their thoughts are primarily focused on earthly matters, and their actions are often driven by the desire to gratify the flesh. This can manifest in various ways: the relentless pursuit of material possessions, the constant craving for sensory pleasures, the obsessive need for validation from others. In the end, they often find life depressing and unfulfilled. Life under the sun is characterized by a sense of despair, a feeling that no matter what they achieve, something is still missing. Let us see an example of this. Jesus told a parable about a rich man whose land produced abundant crops. He thought to himself, "What shall I do, for I have nowhere to store my crops?" He decided to tear down his barns and build bigger ones, thinking he could then relax and enjoy his wealth. But God said to him, "You fool! This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" Jesus concluded, "This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God." This man's focus was entirely on earthly gain, and he neglected the most important thing, his relationship with God. He lived entirely under the sun. But as we enter this new year, 2025, let it not be so for us. Instead, may we choose to live life above the sun, a life lived in communion with God. Life with Him is filled with joy and pleasures at His right hand. This isn't just fleeting happiness, it's a deep, abiding joy that comes from knowing we are loved and accepted by God. Life in 2025 can be abundantly full and good, just as Jesus promised in John 10 verse 10. "I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly." When you live life above the sun, your thoughts are heavenward, and you become Christ-occupied. Your perspective shifts. You begin to see the world through the lens of faith, recognizing God's hand in all things. You live for Him because you know that all things were created through Him and for Him. This verse tells us that Jesus is not just a part of creation. He is the Creator. Everything exists because of Him and for His purpose. Colossians 1:16-17 says, "For in Him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through Him and for Him. He is before all things, and in Him all things hold together." The Greek word for consist in verse 17, as mentioned before, means held together. In Christ, all things are held together. He is the glue that binds the universe. That is why, when Christ is the central figure in your life, you will experience a sense of wholeness and integration. When Christ is at the center, your mind will be held together, free from the anxieties and worries that plague those who live under the sun. Your hopes and dreams for 2025 will be held together, grounded in God's promises and guided by His purpose. Your family will be held together by the cords of His love, strengthened by the bond of faith. Your life in this new year will not be empty, but full of God's goodness because Christ in you is the hope of glory. This isn't just a future hope, it's a present reality. Christ lives within us, empowering us to live a life that reflects His glory. The Apostle Paul, despite facing numerous hardships and persecutions, could say, "I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength." Philippians 4:11-13. Paul's contentment didn't come from his circumstances, it came from his relationship with Christ. He lived a life above the sun. In conclusion, it is a wonderful life. This life lived above the sun. Friend, may you choose to live this life in 2025 and beyond. May your focus be on Christ, your thoughts be heavenward, and your life be filled with His abundant blessings. Take a moment to reflect on your life. Are you living under the sun or above it? If you desire to live a life above the sun, make a conscious decision to place Christ at the center of your life. Seek Him in prayer, study His Word, and connect with a community of believers. As we move forward in this new year, let us choose to live above the sun. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, Hebrews 12:2. Let us trust Him to guide us, provide for us, and hold us together. Remember the words of Colossians 1:27, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Friend, 2025 can be your most fulfilling year yet if you live it above the sun. Seek His presence, trust His promises, and walk in His purpose. May your life be filled with the abundant goodness of God this year and beyond. Happy New Year!